Welcome everyone, Costin here with the discussion about the Old World mod for Total War Warhammer 3. And in this particular video, I want to talk about the biggest difference and some of the things you need to consider when playing this mod versus the base game. So in the base game, what ends up happening because of the settlement density, which I've talked about in previous videos, what ends up happening is if you're playing certain races, specifically races like the Greenskins, Dark Elves, Warriors of Chaos, what you'll end up doing in a campaign is something like this. You go to a settlement, you fight a battle. In this case, I just auto-resolve it. And then you'll sack it. Or in this case, let's just loot and occupy it, because it's not really too much of an issue. Or just simply occupy. But in a lot of cases in Warhammer 3, what you would be doing in the Immortal Empires campaign, you would be sacking, then you would be occupying it if you had enough movement points. Now in this case, I just don't have enough movement points to sack it. But the idea is you would fight the settlement battle pretty much every turn, or multiple settlement battles each and every single turn of your campaign. And you would gain a significant amount of money. If you're wondering how I have 10,000, well, that's because there was a greater demon that Gremgor dealt with over here as the Lord leading the army. Gave me a lot of money when I defeated that. Now, the problem with what happens in Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires and the difference in Old World is that you end up in a situation in Immortal Empires where one of the things you can start doing very, very quickly is, as these kind of races, is get the second army and start mass recruiting units for second army, then a third army, then a fourth army. As the Greenskins, for instance, or the Dark Elves or other races, it is very possible to maintain a lot of armies very, very quickly in your campaign. Simply because you know you can go, you know you can go every single turn from settlement to settlement to settlement, fighting a battle, sacking that settlement, or looting and occupying it, but regardless, earning some kind of post-battle loot every single turn that will keep your economy afloat. For the Greenskins in particular, the Greenskin economy is decent enough, but they can't trade, and if you maintain a lot of armies, the economy can't keep up. But it doesn't matter, because if you're playing a Greenskin campaign in Immortal Empires, it is very doable to just, as I said, go from battle to battle to battle, sacking settlements along the way, taking those settlements along the way, and nothing can really stop you. Nothing can slow you down, even. And as a result of this, combined with something like the WoW mechanic where, you know, double the size of every army you have, you end up in a situation where no other faction can stop you. None can come even close to being able to stop you. But in the Old World, settlements are not so close together that you can do that from turn to turn. Like, for instance, over here, it's going to take me 2 turns to go from the settlement of Riomes to go to the Great Hog. And that means that I am going to I'm going 1 turn without being able to earn that extra money from sacking and looting settlements. And that means I cannot and will not be able to, in a campaign over here, to maintain the same level of armies as I am in the base game. I mean, it's still, Gremgor is still a Greenskin Lord, and he'll still be able to do this, right? 1,000 gold. That's a tier 1 settlement, by the way. Just keep the gold flowing, keep them armies going, keep the momentum going, all that. That will still be something that does happen inevitably in his situation, but it will happen. But it is going to get to a point where if I try and maintain multiple armies, more than, let's say, 2 armies early on, it is going to end up going very poorly for me, and I will literally run out of money. Now, why is this so very important in a campaign for both you and AI? Why does this matter, you might ask? Well, the reason this matters in any particular campaign is you need to play a campaign very, very differently. than you did before when the game came out. Or with regards to Immortal Empires, and Realms of Chaos. You cannot simply just go around with, I don't know, half a dozen stacks of troops as the Greenskins very early on in a campaign and not worry at all about the kind of consequences you're going to have to your economy. You can no longer just play continuously with your economy in the red by thousands, if not tens of thousands of gold, because you know you can fight a battle every single turn. You don't have that guarantee in Old World. Furthermore, there's another aspect another issue that gets created for you as the player. Because distances are great, and because you can't maintain as many armies, and nor can the AI for that matter, but primarily you as the player, because you cannot maintain the same level of armies, you are going to end up in a situation where one of the things you can do in Warhammer 3 in the base game is you can end up in a situation where you're perpetually on the offensive. That is not really necessarily going to work in the same way over here. You are not just going to be able to take your armies, continuously take territory every turn, and not have to worry about the consequences of offensive action from other factions. Because that's one of the things you can certainly do in Immortal Empires. You can take so much territory so quickly that the AI is just not going to be able to respond very effectively to that, and it's not going to be able to handle what you're throwing against it very, very effectively. In the Old World, you're going to end up with, if you try and expand extremely quickly without any regard for, okay, which factions are opposed to me, which factions am I going to share a border, and which factions are going to be a problem. If you just take a territory willy-nilly, you're going to end up with a stretch of territory that is indefensible. And because you don't have the forces to hold everything, then what the AI will end up doing, and of course if I'm going against Manfred, sure, we'll take it. You're going to end up with the stretch of territory that AI factions will take advantage of that situation against you as the player and end up wiping you out. And that ends up becoming a problem for you as the player. It means you have to approach a campaign situation differently. It means that just doing things in the exact same way as you were in Immortal Empires, it is the best way to play in Immortal Empires, just going from settlement to settlement to settlement, taking a lot of territory along the way, never stopping, never really consolidating, getting as much army as you possibly can. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, as I said, if your economy is completely in the red for a very significant portion of time. It doesn't matter if you're going bankrupt, if you can just fight a battle every single turn. That has no real relevance in your particular campaign during the course of Immortal Empires. But it does have significant relevance over here. Like, look at this situation, right? So I'm at war with Manfred, but I've also got Yambo, I've got Marcus Wolfhard to contend with in this particular situation. I probably should have manually fought the battle against Manfred over there to minimize casualties, because that's one of the things that's important with respect to hot resolve. Because then I could have just, focused on Marcus Wolfhard and wiped him out fairly quickly. That is a bit ridiculous, though, what's going on right there. But regardless, this will change the way you play campaigns. This will change the way you expand. For both some of the strongest races in the game, like the Greenskins, and some of the weaker races in the game, like, say, Kislev, the Empire, and so on and so forth. You will not be able to approach a campaign in the same way that you were used to. And that's really the important aspect over here to mention, to talk about. Like, for instance here, you know, I could obviously go after Marcus Wolfhard, but it depends on whether or not this army can. Well, probably can't, right? Or if I try and do it, yeah, they might just march against me and wipe me out. So the decision making is going to be different. From my perspective, the way the old world works at the moment is substantially better than how things used to work during the course of both Realms of Chaos and Immortal Empires. Now, I am really curious to see how a legendary lord, like, say, Skarbrand, for instance, how he is to play. Tarax is one thing, right? Because Tarax doesn't necessarily need an income, whereas Skarbrand does need an income. And I am really curious to see how it will be to play Skarbrand. Given the idea, you may actually go multiple turns without being able to earn post-battle loot, and his economy was already in the danger zone. But again, you just can't approach the same things in the exact same way. More defensive playstyle, or not necessarily more defensive, but a more strategic playstyle, a more thoughtful playstyle, where you aren't just, you know, throwing an army against one front and it's on its own, and you're doing this in as many fronts as possible. Because what is notable with the AI in Warhammer 3 is, whatever you might think of the AI, one of the things stands out. And that is, when we're talking about major settlements versus minor settlements, the AI is far more willing. Obviously, to attack minor settlements and major settlements, and it's also far more willing to attack armies on the field than it is to attack any kind of settlement. So now you end up in a situation where the entire decision-making process has to change for you as a player in order to contend with the difference of the AI behavior.
Go before you incur the Celestials' deadly wrath.
Also, because you have less money, you can't just develop every province the way you'd want it to. For instance, I think in this campaign I'm gonna end up allying Jan Bo. It does seem like a decent enough strategy. I do think it makes campaigns better. I do think it makes campaigns more interesting to tackle, more interesting to play. Forces you to adopt to have a different kind of decision making during the course of those campaigns. Like, for instance, you know, Manfred just bypassing Grimgor and marching over here to try and deal with my settlements. That's certainly a different situation than the one I might generally encounter during the course of a campaign. So, what makes Old World great is not just the fact that it's a big map, basically focused on the kind of same landmass as you do in Warhammer 1, but because of the distance between settlements, that forces you to make a change in playstyle that you wouldn't have had to do otherwise. And I really believe that that is the greatest aspect, so to speak, of this particular mod. And I think that it has made campaigns, even the ones that I've played so far, it has made those campaigns substantially better than they are. Now, again, like, this is a demonstration video. Obviously, I should have fought these balanced manually, all that kind of stuff, right? Because it would have made a heck of a lot more sense. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more. We can make a WoW happen.